Well, hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Oh my goodness, God is so good to us, alive for another day, meeting for another Sunday. And I'm just looking forward to this particular conversation. Welcome for those of you who are joining on this fine Sunday. I want to know where you're joining us from so that we can greet you well. Today, I bring you beautiful Sunday greetings from the island of Jamaica, the land of wood and water, where the sun is shining and the weather is sweet. And I trust that wherever you are having a beautiful and a blessed day. I hope that you are either going to have popcorn with us or you're enjoying your Sunday dinner, but most importantly, enjoying a time of fellowship where we can learn from one another. So, with today being the very first Sunday of the second quarter of 2022, that's a big deal. That's a big deal because it means if we're still here, we're still standing. A lot of us have gone through some amount of reflection about how the first quarter, welcome, my faithful one. A lot of us have gone through some amount of reflection. Yesterday was a day of reflection for me about the first quarter of this year. And I had to catch myself from not lingering in lament about what I did not do, what I didn't get to accomplish, but instead re-engineered my thought process about the things that I need to determine to roll over into this quarter to get it accomplished. So welcome, my front row VIP consistent Real Talk supporters are in the building. Our guest is backstage, waiting to come on stage. But most importantly, I really want to just be able to always say thank you. Thank you for your support. Real Talk continues, not because it's just something to do on a Sunday, but truly because I know that Real Talk is impacting lives and that you have been so committed. And truly, I can't thank you enough for being a part of our journey. So, with that said, I want us to be very, very intentional this second quarter and really help to support each other, because it can get lonely if you feel like you're walking this path alone, if you feel like no one else is able to provide support. And that's farthest from the truth. I do believe that we all need to remember that we're not an island, we don't stand alone, and we need one another. Facts of life, we actually need one another. And so with the next 90 days, as long as our lives are spared, then let's make the next 90 days, the second quarter, a second quarter where at the very least we set out to do one thing, just one thing that we choose to commit to, making it happen, and making it happen because we have partnered with supporting each other on that. So without any further ado, let me tell you something. This little lady that we're bringing on stage, she is quite a cheerleader, quite a little powerhouse, a personality that can be contained in a can or in a stadium. Like, she just kind of lights up the place. She has a southern accent, bar none. So when she gets on here, you're not going to have to ask where my sister friend is from. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who you're going to be hearing about, right? Thank you so much for joining. And drop that you're in the house when you make it in the building. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, let me become a little bit more formal and share with you, as I ought to every single episode. And that is, welcome to Real Talk. Real Talk is a space where I believe I am meant to engage, encourage, and empower my fellow sisters to overcome their limits, own their greatness, and live a life of purpose, passion, and prosperity. So you are here because all of us need to be aligned to that. That's God's plan for all of us. And all of us have had specific limits that we need to overcome, or we're continuing to work through our limitations. Yesterday, I shared with, or it was today, that I shared with a dear friend of mine that I am having to overcome some fears in an effort to really get to the next level. And until I let them go, then I am going to remain in the same cycle. So this real talk is about exactly that. Real talk, real people having real conversations and being open about sharing one's life's journey, so that being vulnerable is an act of courage, but it's also an act of compassion. And why do I believe that so? Because compassion tells us that my story and the pain of my past was not meant to be in vain, but instead it is to propel my purpose to help someone else. So, with that in mind, let me tell you a little bit, just a little smidgen, about this dynamic woman called Roberta. And so Roberta Axson, I told her I'm giving her a middle name is Fabulous. So Roberta Fabulous Axson is a mentor, an educator, also a healthcare worker. I'm adding that too, a transformational speaker, and she's the founder of TeenMoms2Beyond LLC. She values relationships and commitment to lifestyle improvement. And she brings a very unique perspective gained from her experience as a former teen mom, and her careers in healthcare and education have helped to propel her. Roberta provides both mentoring as well as group coaching opportunities to former teen moms and women born to teen moms as well. I truly believe that Roberta has a blessing and a gifting. And I said to her a little bit earlier, the fact that she would be in education and be amongst children of an age group that she herself went through her rough passage and be able to impact on them now. I want her to tell us about awards that she got last year and all that jazz. But God has done a good thing in Roberta's life, and I consider her an overcomer, and that's why she's here. So help me to welcome on stage Roberta Axson. Here she is. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Hi,
You the best
Roberta.
introductions.
Of course. Welcome, welcome. Let them hear your accent quick and
Oh my
fast.
goodness. Hello, y'all.
Welcome, Roberta. We're also happy to hear your voice. Know that you have committed your Sunday afternoon to us, and that we're going to use this window of time to speak to you in particular, because my mission this Real Talk season is really about overcoming our limits and truly owning our greatness and purpose. And I can't imagine what it's like for you to really have gone through I would consider it a tumultuous passage of being a teen mom. But nobody can speak to it better than you can. And to think that now you have a journal that is really impacting lives, which makes you an author, with this particular journal. So give us a little snippet of who Roberta Axson is. Over to you.
Over to me. Well, it's been a journey to be who I am today, of course, because sitting in that doctor's office 36 years ago and finding out that I was 4.5 months pregnant with no prenatal care, that was something serious. And I didn't even realize, I guess, the magnitude of becoming a mother. Because when the doctor shared the news with my mom and I sat there and I was just in disbelief. But then I became angry, frustrated, depressed. I mean, there were just a roller coaster of emotions there. And for me, I did not know where to even begin, but there was a life that I could not give back. And there was a life that I was going to be responsible for. So I had to do some things differently than what I had seen being done prior to me finding out that I was pregnant, because I am a product of a teen pregnancy. My mom had me at the age of 16, and I had my son at the age of 15. So I
Mm.
was continuing the generational curse
Mhm.
of getting pregnant, the unwed. But I know that curses are meant to be broken. And that
Amen.
is what I was going to do, was break the cycle, break the curse, break the pattern of doing something before time, because we know that babies are blessings, but the timing of a baby, because there's so much to going into being prepared, being equipped to be responsible for someone else, because I really didn't even know how to be responsible for myself at the age of 14. So I was making choices that I wasn't aware of the consequences. So I had to begin to look at my child at that point, and then how I was going to show up to learn, to grow, and to develop as a mother that could really take care of him.
Wow. I can't imagine the wave of emotions, and you speak to that very, very briefly. And also, I imagine facing everyone else.
Oh, yes. The shame of
Mhm.
having to face everyone else, because during the 80s, there were only two people pregnant in the entire school building. Two. And I was one of them. So, not really having anyone to relate to being a teen mom, not really seeing resources, because the reason why I've called the organization Teen Moms to Beyond is because, for one, I am a product of a teen mom, and then being a former teen mom, but also beyond, because we forget that me being a teen mom, pregnant at 15, at 18, my child is 3 years old. At 19, at 20, he's still growing. He's getting ready to go to kindergarten. I am still trying to figure out who I am and what I need to do. And so we have all the resources available for the pregnancy, for the person carrying the child. But once we actually deliver, where do we go from here? And so sometimes hands are present with a baby, because no one wants to see a baby not receiving all the things that they need. But then that mother and that child after the fact of still trying to figure out, do I go to college? Do I get a job? What kind of support will I have? Trying to figure out a better life for me and my child. So that is the reason why it's Teen Moms to Beyond, because
Mhm.
we do need to realize that we're beyond statistics. We're beyond the circumstance and situation. We're even beyond the choice that we made, that untimely choice, so that we can do better at preparing ourselves to be better parents.
Wow. What would you describe as your drive to have risen above, though, Roberta? Because let me tell you, I just can't imagine. I mean, I cannot imagine. What would you say was that drive and that determination to push and say, I've got to lift myself up. I've got to keep going. I have a duty to myself and my baby. I mean, listen, at 15 years old, like you said, you yourself, you are still growing, you are still developing. The ability to even consider, can I further my education? What was that drive, and what did it take to continue to push through?
Well, it was really the child. It was my son. It was all him, honestly, because I heard a lot of where my mom, and I do understand her pain and her disappointment. But when it's displaced on a child that's not responsible, and that is what I had to grow up. I had to grow up hearing, I would have graduated from high school if I had not have had you. I would have not had to work so hard if I didn't have you. And so I did not want to do that to my son. I wanted him to be the reason why because he was the reason at that time. He was here. And so I wanted to just turn that around and say, you're my reason. I have to graduate from high school because of you. I have to go to school, go to college, and become more because of you. And he was my reason.
Wow. That says a lot, though, because that's literally fighting against the odds. And that motherhood is a full time job. Let's not confuse the
Absolutely.
issue, right? So, full time mom, full time young mom, and attempting to deal with school at the very, very same time. When did you know it was time to hold your head up?
To be honest with you, Marsha-Ann, I really just learned how to hold my head up. Like within the last year or so, just going through the coaching program and learning how to show up for myself, because I was always showing up for others. I was showing up for my son so that he wouldn't be ashamed of me, not being able to provide for him or having a quote unquote normal life. So I really recently learned how to show up for myself.
Good for you. We've got to give you a round of applause for that. That's
Recently,
a big round of applause for that, really, because it would have meant that you've been carrying all of this weight all this time. The labels, the limiting beliefs, the ability to try and please him and others at the sacrifice of yourself and your joy. And now you're at a stage where you have
yes.
literally let go and you're choosing to live fully, which is what last week's episode was about. So I want to commend you for that. And I want to commend you for your courage to begin to speak up. Tell me, would you say that for several years you wanted to hide your journey and your story? Did you want
Oh,
to avoid
yes.
talking about it?
Oh yes, I definitely I wanted to hide it because again, the shame, and there are layers, there are layers to the frustration. There are layers to the anger, the disappointment, the disbelief, the shame, the blame, even the blame because you want to blame others. But I
Mhm.
made a choice. I really don't like when people say mistake because children are not mistakes. It's just a choice, an untimely choice that I made. I chose to make that choice at the time. And these were the results of me getting pregnant, me having this child. And
Mhm.
so learning how to navigate, even having to go back to those painful places and pull myself out of that place because it was so dark. It was so dark for a long time because I did not know my value. I didn't know my worth.
Mhm.
I didn't know that I mattered. And there was a child looking at me.
Mhm. It's a big responsibility. In your deepest, darkest, lowest moments, if you were to reflect on someone else who might be in that deepest, darkest, lowest moment of their life's journey, whether it is for the same reason or otherwise, tell us what made you clutch on beyond your son. Like, what were some of the things you had to do for yourself to keep going?
Well, to be honest with you, what really to me I think saved my life was a journal. That is the reason why I started with a journal. I'll definitely have a book. I have the story because I'm learning how to tell my story. But the journaling, that was freeing. That was me being able to release some of the pain, some of the shame, the pressure of being a teen mom. So the journal was my lift, my life lift because I needed it, because I wanted to be present for my son. So if I had to say anything, it was the writing, the being able to express myself because I didn't feel that I had a voice at the time because who wanted to hear from the teen mom?
Mhm.
You're looked at and labeled as you messed your life up. Nobody's gonna want you. You can't do anything. I even had someone to say to me, "Well, I don't think you need to go to college. I think you just need to get a job and take care of you and your son." but I wanted more because I wanted to be able to better serve my son.
And look at you now. Tell him. Look at you now.
I was so tempted to tell that person a few years back, but God put His hand over my mouth, so I couldn't say anything. I just had to smile and just say, yeah.
So then after that, now you chose the field of healthcare before being educator. Tell us about that
Yes,
journey.
I chose healthcare, but God chose me as an educator. Yeah, He allowed me to do that. I wanted, and this is how it ended up happening. I was going to my prenatal checkups, after I found out I was pregnant. So I was continuing to have the care that I needed to take care of my son. And I just love the way they cared for me in that doctor's office. They did not, oh my, they just didn't make me feel that I was not unworthy of receiving care, receiving quality care, treatment for me and my son. And I did not know that the people that were serving me were medical assistants. I thought they were all nurses. So I said, once my doctor told me, he asked me rather after I had my son, he said, "What are you going to do with yourself? You have this baby now. So what is it that you're going to do with yourself?" And so because I had been receiving such great treatment, I said, "Well, I want to be a nurse." And his response was, "What's stopping you? Is this baby going to stop you?" And I looked like, "Really? I can still do it?" And
Wow.
so that is how I ended up, finishing school, high school, and then going on to become a licensed practical nurse. And I was a licensed practical nurse for 6 years as I continued to work full time and return to school for my RN. So I've been a registered nurse almost 30 years.
Wow.
A nurse period almost, 24, 25 years.
Wow.
And so I worked, but I was never satisfied. I was never fulfilled. I've worked in so many areas: hospice, home health, the jail, the prison, dialysis, long-term care, hospitals. And I just would not be fully satisfied. I would like the job for a moment, but I knew it was more. And so once I decided to enter education, and that's a whole different story, God revealed Himself to me, and He actually spoke to me and said, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to teach my children." And literally, the principal, as well as another educator, confirmed that God had spoken to them as well. And so I began my journey of being a healthcare science teacher in 2004. And so I've been teaching and preparing future healthcare professionals since 2004.
There's absolutely no aspect of our life's journey that goes lost. None of it. Because all of that connection, right? To be a teen mom, to be influenced by those who cared for you when you were pregnant, to
Yes,
then choosing to go into healthcare, to then being called to educate, but specifically health science. And what age group do you teach?
I teach 9th through 12th graders.
Wow. So you are at that very pivotal age to positively influence before you had even gotten to your teen pregnancy age of 14, having a baby at 15.
Yes,
So you're making them understand that they have to make better choices. But then for others who were in the similar situation, they also know that they're overcomers. This is a big deal. And you juggled studying all of that and going to work full time with your baby, with now an older child.
oh yes. He, like I said, graduated from high school. He was about 4 years old. So getting him ready for kindergarten at the time, and then making a decision. I actually started a job, and once I realized I was making $3.80 an hour back in 1990, that was the minimum wage. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. He deserved more, even though he came to the earth earlier. I wasn't married. I didn't plan him, but I was not going to not allow him to have the best opportunities that I could possibly give to him. So
Mhm.
when I realized that I needed more, I said, I have to go back to school. I have to go to school. And, I want to speak to the importance of a support system, because sometimes we don't have that. And I think the hope and the faith in just not being able to move forward because you don't have people that are consistently showing up for you. And so I had support, which I am so grateful, because when people sometimes see you working hard and wanting to do more, they're willing to support you more.
That's a fact. Because you could never have done it on your own.
No,
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 you could never fly on one single wing.
no, not at all. Not at all. And so that's important. And that is why I want to be a support system. You know, not that I can do everything myself. That's why it's important. And it's always been important for the collaboration pieces when you're doing things to help serve and better serve others. You think about who is the team that's needed. You know, what people do I need to put in place for this? So I had people that provided childcare for my son so I could study, so I could go to school. Why, you know, if he was out of school, summer programs, you know, people that just showed up to help me with him.
And you never gave up. Like giving up was not an option.
Not an option. Not an option at all. I couldn't. I mean, I needed him to see that you are my reason. And I was so happy because I actually saw him today. Yeah, got a chance to see him today. I don't see him often because, in fact, that was the first time. It's April, and this is the first time I've seen him this year.
Oh, wow.
He's married with his family, so I don't get to see him a lot.
Right.
But when I do, and it was just so special that I actually am on tonight and got a chance to see him today and get about 15 hugs.
Oh, I can only imagine, Roberta, it is commendable to know and to connect with someone who had the level of determination to fight the odds, honestly, because odds will be different for others, okay? Everybody won't have the same circumstance, but the will to do, the determination to keep going, the importance of a support network, and that voice in one's head and heart that says, don't give up, because life alone is important. The fact that you're here is important. And in your case, as in the case of others who may have the same story, the fact that you have a life to account for is also extremely important. What are some of the toughest challenges that you have faced being in the educational system, or even when you were a nurse in the justice system, in the prison system? What are some of the things that you have faced that have been so difficult for you, but because of your story, you have helped others to come through? Does anything come to mind?
I think with what you just said, the will to not give up, because I think sometimes when people look at their circumstances, they can't see beyond their circumstances. And so even now, the motivation post-COVID for my students, and I literally have to have one-on-one sessions with them to say, listen, you can do this. You are going to do this. I mean, because they can't see past where they are. And I was a dreamer. I wanted to be out of my hometown. I wanted to travel. I just wanted to do things. And so, of course, getting pregnant early on, that delayed it, but I still felt that I could still do it. In my head, I would just have company with me.
Right.
And so that part with me, when I see people just feeling so defeated and they just can't see the hope or the light anywhere, that is hard for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you then were to be able to think of some of the situations, because listen, in the last 2 years, and we're seeing within our society as well, that the impact on our children, their mental health, their emotional health, and the same for us as adults too, but just that they have had it that much harder to be able to cope in a time like now, and their emotions are so stretched, and I believe also may make some even more difficult choices and unwise choices because they're so vulnerable right now,
They
you
are.
know. Help us as adults to better support, guide, and give some guidance to some of the children just because of your day-to-day experience. Help us to know what we're looking for and then how to tap into supporting that age group. What would you say?
The most important thing for me is just to be there, to listen to them, even though I know sometimes parents say I have to work, because I did that. I was guilty. My son and I've had many conversations about me working, 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 because I just wanted to make sure he had what he needed, and that we didn't have to depend on anyone else. But I think that even if you're working, make time, be intentional about the time that you give to them, because in the isolation, they're bringing in more fear. They're allowing more anxiety, anxiousness, worry, and just and they don't know how to process sometimes, because it's like all of those emotions are piled on top of them, and they just don't know how to process. And so really being able to listen and make time for them, if they're, and you ask them, just, I like to just ask the questions. That is important. I literally sit down with, I have two sons, and we do reflection, and I'll ask them, what can I do to be a better mom to you? Or
Hmm.
what didn't you like about me as your mom growing up? Or what is it that, I don't mind asking, because I really want to be the best parent that I can be for them, even though my youngest will be 21 in a few days. But for me, I think sometimes parents, they just assume that they are a good parent because they say they are a good parent, but you're not your parent. It's
Right.
like, I need my sons to say, "Mom, you're a good mom," or not. I can't say that I'm a good mom. They judge that. And so we forget that, and we don't want to ask sometimes because we're afraid of the response. So really listening to them, having those dialogues with them, to where you can truly understand where they are, but more important, where they're on their way to. Because I say destiny dialogues, to where I'm speaking life over them, into them, and then it's revert, it's coming back to me. They're able to speak, my sons are able to speak life and destiny into me as their mom. And so when parents, it's like, do as I say, and I get it. I have respect. Please understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. I've raised two men, and they respect me to the utmost. And if no one believes that, we can do an interview with them. But for me, I just think that we miss listening. We don't have a problem speaking as parents, but we miss the part of listening, because communication is two-way. It's not just always speaking and getting your point across, because those children that we're speaking to, they're going to grow up and become adults. And then if you never gave them the opportunity to have a voice because you didn't listen to what they were saying, then they've missed opportunities of being prepared for the world that waits for them.
Wow. Very, very well said. Very well said. Because so often, I believe the challenges that we see, both at home and in our school systems, are children who feel that they have to suppress their emotions and that they're not comfortable speaking, either for fear of judgment, or we haven't asked the right questions, or they don't feel like they can share openly without repercussions. So
Exactly.
thanks for echoing that so very strongly. So then it hastens me to ask then, Roberto, a very young mom, having that mindset and disciplining your child when he
Yes.
was a lot younger, you had the capabilities to do that?
I learned because I did not want to be out in public and be seen as a mother that didn't have control of their child. And again, because I was a young mother, I didn't want to make excuses for being a young mother. It's like, again, being labeled. They don't come to work, they're always late, they don't know this, they don't know how to do that. So I read books. I read parenting books. I asked questions. And so I wanted it. That's the first part, is to want it, to have a desire. Did I miss the mark? Of course, I missed a lot of the marks. But like, my son and I have, my oldest, we have these conversations to where you're still here and I'm here. Let's work on it. Let's continue to work on it. It's a life it's a life journey. Not just that we've gotten to the destination, but I'm a different mom, you're a different son. I can't go back to undo those things, or even to do some of the things I should have done. But you have to, and I've had to speak this to him. I said, but you have to give me grace. I was 14 learning. I was 15 learning. I was 16 learning. I was 17 learning. So he literally just sent me a text message, maybe a week or two ago, and it brought tears to my eyes, because he told me, he said, he admitted, I've been fighting you all this time, and you've only shown me love.
Wow.
But even with that, not even knowing how to receive love, because when you're born out of rejection, out of abandonment, and the cycle continues, because that was my cycle: abandonment, rejection. Then it was his cycle: abandonment, rejection. You don't know how to receive. And so the first thing we have to do is acknowledge. And so those were the hard conversations that we had to have. I know where you are. I know that you're hurting, but what can we do about it? Let's talk about it. Let's get some remedy to this. Because you can't stay stuck. I can't allow you to stay stuck.
Wow. I read a book recently, an excerpt of it, that spoke about the impact of abandonment, the feeling of abandonment, the feeling of rejection, fear, shame, and control,
Yes.
and how through generations, how it has the ability to snowball. And you are describing, as my eyes are coming off of the pages of this book, because it means that usually what happens is that as individuals that have the real hurt, the deep hurt of feeling rejected, of feeling unwanted, of feeling abandoned, that there's this barrier or guard where they're fighting for survival.
That's so true. They are. And sometimes the unfortunate part about that is that they don't know. They're not aware of the effect for themselves and the effect of others. It's like they're numb. So, and that's what he was saying to me. Basically, I saw you reaching for me, but I didn't know how to reach back. I didn't know how to receive the love that you had available for me. And then comparing, because I was 15 when I had my first son, and I was 30 when I had my second.
Ooh,
So that's like night and day. And having to deal with the dynamics of being really two different mothers. Two different. And so, I always share with them that he's my favorite firstborn son. And my youngest, you're my favorite youngest son. Right. And my oldest would always say, Mom, I'm your only oldest son. I said, I know, but you're my favorite. You're gonna always be my favorite. No matter what, you are my favorite.
Yes.
And so, but just making sure he knows that he has a place in my heart. And I've shared this as well, that my oldest is my rhythm to my heart, and my youngest is really my heart. He's my heart, and my oldest is my rhythm to my heart. But you can't have one without the other. Because you can't have a heart without the rhythm. It's not going to work.
Right.
And you wouldn't need the rhythm if you didn't have a heart. And so the impact of my love for them, and that is how I describe it, we wouldn't be living without a heart.
Right.
So being able to show up for them, and being who I am. And I think as I've grown and developed and learned how to show up for myself, it helps me to be a better person, really, for my sons. And for any children that I've adopted, because I have so many adopted.
Oh, I have seen a zillion pictures with
I have so many that I've
you,
adopted.
literally have so many. Did you always have that spirit of encouragement, or is it because you experienced so much hurt and rejection that you give to others what you wish you got?
It's
Because your
both.
sincerity of cheer is infectious.
It's
Tell us
both.
more.
It's really both because I grew up, and again, I love my mother. Oh, I love my mom. I love her, love her, love her. And I've had to learn how to love her, honestly. And this has been recently as well,
Wow.
because again, there are layers to love, especially
Mhm.
when it's wounded love
Mm.
and being born out of wedlock and out of abandonment, rejection, and all of those things. I wasn't planned, just a lot of things that I've had to overcome. And so when I was growing up, I was in a very negative environment. It was just negative. And I remember looking in the dictionary, saying, okay, my mom is pessimistic. What's the anonym to this? Because I always liked synonyms and antonyms growing up. And so I said, oh, optimistic. It's the opposite of pessimistic. And so from like, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years old, I started saying, when I grow up, I am going to be optimistic. I am going to be optimistic. And I just kept saying it, Marsha-Ann. Really, I really kept speaking it. I am going to be optimistic. I am optimistic. And so I don't look at things, yes, these things happen, but somebody else has had something far worse happen to them. And so I just have always looked at that. And then on the flip side of it, I give what I want.
Mhm.
If I want love, I give love. If I want joy, I give joy. If I want peace, I give peace. And people don't realize that when they come in, even with my students, I have to tell them every day for the past 18 years that I've been a teacher, and they can tell you, back in my first year, students that graduated in 2005, they will tell you, happy Monday, happy Tuesday, every day. How was your weekend? How's your day going? And so they're looking at me, and of course, they know me now at this point. But I told them, I said, listen, there's somebody that couldn't put their clothes on today. There's someone they don't know they're in the world today. They cannot feed themselves. I said, you're not going to come in here and you can do all of those things for you and you're not grateful. So
Amen.
living a life really of gratitude, because that's where the optimism, the gratitude, and being able to give what I want. I don't want to give anybody attitude and nasty, and that's just, I'm allergic to that. I mean, I'm allergic to that. I don't do that because anyone can be rude, and I mean that's like it. But the effort that it takes for you to be rude, and it less effort to be kind.
Mhm.
And then I remember when I was in seventh grade, I had my favorite teacher to share with me. I frowned all the time because I was just a child in a environment at home that was negative. So I
Mhm.
frowned. I was, just a mean child. And so I remember her saying to me, "You frown all the time. When you get old, you're gonna have more wrinkles than I do." And she said, "If you take, do you know that it's less wrinkle, less, what did she say? Muscles or something for you to smile than it is for you to show wrinkles." And
Mhm.
so I said, really? So I started looking in the mirror and I started smiling. I said, oh, I like when I smile. So I started smiling. And that just become, and that's just from my teacher saying that to me, making me aware. Because I think sometimes we don't make people around us aware of the behavior. And I was so grateful for her making me aware of my behavior, how I could improve with just a smile.
Mhm. Well, you certainly have rocked that smile and you certainly have that infectious spirit. And I agree with you. And that teacher has the same mantra that I grew up with my mom, who always reminded that it takes so many muscles to frown and get upset, and,
Yes.
and less to smile.
Yes.
And
Your
then
mom is adorable.
isn't she though? She really is. And she really talked about smiling from the inside out. And I get it. I totally get it because Gratitude does shift our posture, Roberta. You could never be here having this conversation with us and have the outcome that you have had you not had a grateful heart, you know? And I believe that all of us can be reminded of that, regardless of our circumstances. And to your point, it's not about, somebody said to me recently, are you always this positive? And I said, no, I'm always grateful
Yes.
because gratitude supersedes positivity
Yes.
because positivity can be impacted based on
Yeah,
circumstances,
that's true.
right? But gratitude really means digging deeper
It's
to
a heart,
find.
it's a heart thing.
It is a hard thing. It's purely a hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know the opposite of it, when you know the impact of negativity or harboring negative thoughts or toxic circumstances and environments, and you set yourself free from that, trust me, your gratitude gauge really goes up to full versus empty. Help us to unpack how you were able to release the bitterness and release the hurt. I'm not talking about journaling because you've already shared that. But, like you even said, how you have been able to work on the relationships that you have had. What are some of the strategies that you ended up employing to release the hurt, release the bitterness, release the unforgiveness, because all of us would have at some point in our life, regardless of what the situation or circumstance would have been, would have battled with some of those issues with relationships of any type. What would you say was your all right, I got to work on it, and it is work. I got to work on this so that I can release bitterness, I can release hurt, I can release unforgiveness, and I can embrace love, joy, and peace. Tell us about that.
Well, first is really just having that mirror ministry, to where you allow God to hold the mirror for you. You allow him to hold the mirror and show, you must be shown you. And I think that's a hard thing sometimes because I was miserable with me. I couldn't see me because I was buried under me. The pain, the shame, the frustration, depression, all of that, just buried under all those emotions. So with him showing me who I was in that mirror and me having to acknowledge all of the stuff, and then after that, I could do something. So me truly in prayer, asking for guidance, asking for comfort, and then, being led for therapy because my emotions were just chaotic. They were all over the place. And I was still looking to blame, because we want to blame. Well, if my relationship is not working, then it's the other person's fault. They're doing this, and that. But God is still telling me, but you're doing this, because it's always going to come back to me. So like they say, when you point the fingers, how many point back at you? So, and we don't want to see that, but acknowledging my faults and being able to really lay out and just cry out to him and allow him in, because we think that God doesn't see what we're trying to hide from ourselves. It's like, God didn't see that. I know God didn't see that, but God saw it before you did it. And so it's like, really, God, can you help me with this? I want to really lay all of this out because I know this, if it's in my way, I know it's in your way. From me being my authentic self, from me being able to show up completely and whole, because I want to be whole. I want to be whole so I can truly know who I am in wholeness. And so really therapy, my spiritual growth, and being able to just be, I call it butt naked transparent,
Right.
where you remove all the clothes, all the layers, all the pain, all the shame and the past. You're removing all of it and you're just standing there and you just allowing him to show you the areas where you need to be healed in. And this is not a one time only. This is an everyday check-in This is an everyday check-in. So I want to grow and I want to give him something to bless. I want to give him, all the glory for what he's doing in my life, not what I can do, but I know I'm his co-laborer. I can only do it because he's allowing me to do it. And so we're a team. We're a team. So I can't leave him out if we're a team.
I love it. I love it. I am so proud of you. I imagine that the gap of 15 years, I'm reflecting now and I'm thinking the gap of 15 years between both children. It's 15 years, right?
Yes, 15.
Right. The gap of 15 years and your maturity, like you mentioned, so different. First child and your second child. If you look at yourself now and you were to have a conversation with your younger self, what would you tell her that you're most proud of? Tell her.
I am most proud that I did not give up. I did not give up. There were so many moments where they were hard. They were just hard. I didn't see this. I didn't see it. I knew it would be possible, but I didn't see it. So just not giving up, because it's kind of like when we give up, you don't know what you're missing out on. And I didn't want to miss out because growing up, I always felt left out. So I didn't want to miss out. So telling my younger self, I'm so proud that you did not give up.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. And then to the woman that you have become in spite of. You just celebrated a milestone birthday, right?
Yeah, I was 51 last month.
Hey, that's a big deal,
Yes, super
right?
excited about the 50s.
Yes, that's fantastic. And so, with that in mind, in your reflection of your life's journey, especially when you think of the 14-year-old who endured it all, the one that did not give up, if you are going to be speaking to who you have now become and who you believe you are evolving to be, what do you have to say?
Continue to look forward to doing the work because you're worth it. Because you're worth it. Keep doing the work. And the work will look different on different days. Some days your work is rest. Your assignment is resting. Some days it's just being able to be filled so that you can pour out. But some days you have to be poured in so you can be filled. And so the work, just being willing to do the work because you're worth it. Because sometimes I think we as women, we can show up and do the work because it's always that we're pleasing somebody else or serving someone else. But when it's us, we put ourselves last. That's why the pillars and the Teen Moms movement, TeenMoms2Beyond movement, self-care is first. Because I had to learn how to take care of myself. I didn't know in my 20s, didn't know in my 30s, started hearing about it in my 40s, but really I'm grabbing onto it in my 50s and I'm holding on to it and I'm not letting it go. I want to really learn self-care.
Wow.
I want to learn self-care and I want to teach self-care. I want to be an example of self-care. And so being willing to do the work because we're worth it. That's what I want to continue to tell myself moving forward. I'm worth it.
And you are. Without question, you are. I'm wanting to acknowledge some of the phenomenal comments that are coming in that reminds us of some of the nuggets that you have shared. And my scribes of scribes have come on and have shared, the importance of what you were saying earlier about listening and, mental health of students, always so very important.
Very important.
But also that both educators and parents need to be the ones that are listening a lot more keenly. But to your point, we've got to listen to ourselves and be very mindful of the conversations that we're having with ourselves, because we can go through periods of self-defeat,
yes,
which just erodes our ability to rise above, right? And instead, this is a time to remind ourselves that we are, in fact, worth it. We really are. So I want you to tell us about the pillars of um, the teen moms to beyond. Tell us a little bit more about that, because we are going to be wrapping up soon. But what would you say the genesis of that is all about? And if there are particular pillars that you give them above and beyond self-care to focus on, I want you to share that with me. And I also am going to ask you to give a word of encouragement, whether it is a mom of a teen mom, or what's the other version you have
Yeah,
it again?
yeah, it's the former teen mom,
Right.
and then a woman or
Right.
women that are born to a teen mom, because
True.
sometimes they don't become a teen mom.
True.
Your mom may have had you at 16, 17, but you got married, had a child later on, or you don't have a child. But
Mhm.
there's still some pieces, there's still some bridges that need to connect, some nuggets that you miss because your mom was still growing and evolving. And
Mhm.
so there were things missed.
So tell us some of the pillars that you give them in your, whether in your journal or in your
Yeah,
in your
it's in the
support group.
journal. It's in the journal as well. The 5 pillars are self-care, because again, learning how to care for self is not selfish. We've heard that before, and it's vital that we understand that. So self-care, and then it's time management, because time as well as money, they're resources. So I think that if we can manage time and not allow it to manage us, we steward time, then we can get money. So then I have money management after management. We learn how to manage our resources. I was making $3.80 an hour. If you look up minimum wage in 1990, $3.80 or 85, might be off 5 cents. But learning how to do that, stewarding the little so that we can have more, being trusted with the little so that we can have more. So I had to learn how to manage the money. I bought my first car, $500, but I had to save up. And so
Mhm.
then it's personal development. I think once we get to know ourselves as the person that we are, as well as the person that we're becoming, then we can top it off with professional development. And so those are the 5 pillars: self-care, time management, money management, personal development, and professional development. So in the group, Teen Moms to Beyond, it's a private Facebook group. We started Table Talk Tuesday. So the third Tuesday of each month, I've invited a special guest. So the first month, I think we did self-care, and we talked about the importance of sleep. And I
Mm.
had a person on, a nurse practitioner, come on and share about how we don't get the sleep that we need. And so it was really, informative. And then the next month we did reading the labels to set a better table. So
Mm.
learning how to, the importance, again, self-care, feeding
Right.
ourselves, what we need, not just shopping and buying things and we're not reading what's in the ingredients. And I know, it's, we're on budget sometimes, but when you look at what you're spending your money on as far as food, you're either sometimes going to pay now a higher price, or you're going to pay later for a diagnosis that you didn't want. So we did that. And so, I'm just excited to get things started and just
Mhm.
preparing to receive the women that I am so looking forward to serving.
And you will serve them well from your heart.
Yes, ma'am.
My mom just said self-care and God are the key pillars to hold hand in hand, because
And
really God
nursing.
really made us as a treasure, your fellow nurse.
Yes, yes. That's our nursing note.
Yes, yes, yes. This has been really fantastic. If I'm going to be wrapping up, and I have, I think, 2 or 3 questions I want to ask you as we're about to wrap up. The very one question, because the mission of Real Talk right now is to focus on overcoming our limits, owning our greatness and purpose. What would you say is one strong characteristic trait that you have that you would encourage others to build on that affords you to overcome your limits?
For me, it's the honesty. It's the honesty. You can't be honest with, and I know we like to say I'm an honest person, but you're not honest with no one else until you're honest with yourself. I've really recently learned how to be honest, within the past maybe 5 years, truly the layers to honesty, because we don't want mirror ministry. We don't want to look at ourselves. When you just look back from last year and just each month, how many times did you look at yourself and determine what you really, really needed to work on? I'm not talking about the weight. I'm not talking about outer appearance. I'm talking about the inner. I'm talking about the soul of a person, the spirit of a person. So it's honesty for me. Work on the honesty, because you're able to really look at and do what's required and look at yourself the way really God sees us. And so we don't see ourselves the way he sees us, and we're not being honest with ourselves.
Wow. Owning your purpose. What does that mean to you now at this stage of your life?
Just doing it and not being able to, not saying being able, but not comparing or competing. Because when we compete and compare with someone else's purpose, we contaminate the gifts and purpose that God has given us. So owning my purpose, meaning that it's at my pace, in my space, because it's my race.
Ooh, I just did something on that recently. Absolutely. Your pace, your space,
In my space, because
and
it's
your
my
race.
race. Because
Yes, it
we're not
is.
looking around when we're driving. We're not driving on top of anybody. We're not driving in their lanes. We're driving in our own lane. So we have to embrace our pace and our space, because it's our race. So the win, we're gonna finish. We're gonna endure some things to get done, to get to the finish line. We won. So no matter what, it's a victory, because we're winners. We already know the end result of it is that we're winning. And winning looks good on us. And I know I like to say winning Wednesday, but even if it's a Sunday, it's a winning Sunday.
Amen. Amen to that. Um, give us one quote or scripture that is your anchor.
My I have to say two, if that's okay. I know you say one.
Yes. Yes.
Can I not be okay? So this is what has been in every classroom that I've ever been in. I love Maya Angelou. And she says, people may forget what you say or what you do, but they will never forget
Never
the way you
forget how
make
they
them
make you
feel.
feel.
That has been in every classroom. I'm working in my third district right now. And I tell my students that it's not about what I say or do. The evidence is in how I make you feel. So that's one. And then I have several favorite scriptures, but my favorite scripture, one of them is Isaiah 65:24. Before you call, I've already answered. And while you yet speak, I hear you. God,
Amen.
God is listening. So we have to learn how to listen, because he said he's answered us before we even speak. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what he is doing, that I get to work with him.
Yes. Yes. Partner.
Yes, I'm his partner.
100% partnership. This is beautiful. Roberta, you cannot leave without telling us about the award that you got through your educational efforts, the recognition that you got.
Okay. You know what I always tell people, Marsha-Ann, because in my school, I love the love that I get in the districts that where I've served in for the past 18 years. I've served in three different districts. But I tell them, I said, we get excited on the earth for the awards, but God is the best reward I ever received. And so for me, I received the teacher of the year for my building this school year. So I'm serving now as the teacher of the year. And I get excited, but it's like, God, and he actually spoke it to me. I literally told one of my colleagues, I said, God said I'm the teacher of the year before I was announced. And I had forgotten about it. And he told me that I want to honor you for your obedience because he called me into education. I did not choose education. When I had a word of prophecy spoken to me, the person told me that I see you in a classroom. And he said, do you teach? I said, no, I was working as a nurse at the time. I said, oh no, I never teach. They don't make enough money.
Never
And
say never.
I have been doing it for the past 18 years. And when I tell you, I'm so grateful. I'm so
Amen.
humble that he chooses me to love on his children.
Beautiful. I have to honor my cousin who is an educator, and I'm trying to remember. Cheryl, is it like 28 years? I think I can't remember, but you have to drop that in the chat, Cheryl Vassal, and tell me how many years. I can't remember, but like she's
Beautiful.
done a lot of years, and truth be told, you are called to it, and
You
because
are.
you are called, and you have answered the call, yes, God will reward you. He
He
is the
will.
one that definitely rewards. I would love to know how many years for you, Cheryl. I can't remember. 36 years.
Oh my God. I have to meet her. Where is she?
Oh my gosh, 36 years.
Oh my goodness. That is beautiful.
That's amazing,
That is
Cheryl.
ministry. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for serving and being committed to serve.
yeah. For real, for real. I'm
Yes,
from a
I'm at
line
half
of
point. I'm 18. She has 36. I love it.
36.
I love it.
Wow, wow. And I'm from a line of educators, from grandparents
Yes,
straight
I
on
heard your
down.
interview with your mom. Yes,
Yes, yeah,
legacy. Yes, ma'am.
yeah. Mainly educators than anything
Mhm.
else. And
You are one. Your platform is just different. It's not always a classroom. Your classroom looks different. That's the thing. You have a portable classroom.
ooh, I'll take
You
that.
have a portable. Yes, ma'am. Your classroom is portable. It's mobile. Yes, you're an educator, Marsha-Ann. Yes, ma'am. You are. Yes, you are.
I'm shifting my perspective.
Yes,
I
you
will take that. Me
you
and my
are.
mobile classroom that God is using to at least bless one. Wow. Thank you for that. I received that word. Roberta, you have been phenomenal. Assume that someone is only hearing 60 seconds of this episode of Real Talk with Marsha-Ann. And this is the
I love
only
it when you say that. Real talk with Marsha-Ann. I love that.
assume that they're only hearing this 60 seconds. What is one word, one sentence, one paragraph, short paragraph of encouragement that you would like to give to someone who really wants to overcome their limits today and embrace their greatness and purpose? What would you say?
I'm going to give them hope. I give them that one word. And for me, hope is helping others pursue excellence. That's the one word. Take the focus off of you. Go serve somebody else. Hope. Give them hope. Help others pursue excellence.
What a beautiful way you have put that in an acronym. That's the teacher in you. I love that. Say it again.
Hope. If it's one thing that I could leave and they only hear it for 30 seconds, it's hope, to give hope. And that is helping others pursue excellence. Because when we take the focus off of ourselves sometimes, it brings so much more to our own lives. So help others. Be
Mhm.
willing to help others. Be willing to serve others. That's
That's
what I've
beautiful.
done. That's what I've done most of my life. That's why it looks the way it looks for me now. I was willing to serve. Remember, I told you I knew how to show up for others. I didn't know how to show up for myself until recently.
That's beautiful. Well, what a beautiful way for us to end extending hope one to another,
Mhm.
helping others pursue excellence. Um, I won't forget this. I really, really won't forget this at all. Helping others pursue excellence. And that's hope. D, are you Facebook user from the UK? I just see Facebook user. I'm trying to figure out who my Facebook user is. I want to call you by name. Drop your name in so that I can recognize you. This was another beautiful, beautiful episode of Real Talk with Marsha-Ann with our phenomenal guest, Roberta Fabulous Axson.
I love
Hey,
my new middle name.
Paula. Oh my gosh, Paula, I'm so happy you got to join. Roberta Fabulous Axson, reminding us that we can truly overcome our limits and own our greatness and our
Yes,
purpose
yes.
just because of that determination and that will, but most importantly, because of hope and God's grace and mercy. Roberta, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I
Thank
have
you for
one
having me.
ask of everyone, and that is when we've heard an episode such as this, one that's refreshing, one that's giving life, one that really is inspiring and is engaging and empowering and educating for all of us, I really would love for you to do me a favor, and that is share this episode with someone else. For those of you who are going to be watching the replay, do comment so that I can see the impact of this replay on you. And also, don't hesitate to send a direct message to me or to Roberta and let her know the impact that it has had. Because when you have chosen to pour out, you really want someone else to know the impact that this has had. Roberta and I prayed before, and we said, even if it is for one person,
Wow.
we pray that this episode would be a blessing to you. Hey, Fiona, welcome. And so share the episode with someone else. Like and subscribe to this channel, Real Talk with Marsha-Ann, as we look forward to other episodes where my mission will be for God to use me to engage, encourage, and empower other women to ensure they overcome their limits, own their greatness and purpose, and live a life of purpose, prosperity, and sweet peace. Don't forget, make it an awesome, awesome week until we connect again. Thanks for giving me your time. And to you, I say, go with hope as your guide, bless others along the way, and have an amazing week. Walk in your blessings. Take care. Roberta, do stay on while I end this broadcast. Thanks everyone for watching. They're all saying thank you. Amazing, wise
Thank
words.
you.
Love this episode, Roberta. You're gifted. Your words have uplifted us, says Paula. Everyone has said thank you, thank you. She's fabulous, said Shemaine. Listen, they're all beautiful comments that I would want you to actually be able to review for yourself after. Thank you all for joining.
Thank
Dion says,
you.
thank God for both of us for showing up today. Yes, we did it. We're ending. Stay on, Roberta.